On this episode of Riff and Rock Music Talk, Ryan and Alex discuss the dirge of music of the 90s and explore the conspiracy behind Jimi Hendrix. It's all now. Riff and Rock Music Talk.
Wait, what?
Casserole?
Wait, casserole? Ooh, delicious. Hey, everybody, it's Ryan. I'm back this time around to review with Alex 2 albums. In addition to the Flaming Lips album that I was not a part of, that hopefully you guys took a lot of information from, a lot of insight into the psyche of Flaming Lips. And Alex is here. Say hey, Alex.
Hey. He's
still here, but I just showed up. So which album do you want to talk about first, Alex?
In what way?
We could have a very well thought out conversation about it.
Okay. Well, sure. Let's talk about that. So the Dismemberment Plan is Terrified by the Dismemberment Plan is the second album they released back in 1997. You might be wondering, why are we reviewing an album from the 90s? It's simple, because there's only like 6 good albums from the 90s, so we have to cover all of them at some point.
What are the other albums that are good from the 90s? Well, the Space Jam soundtrack.
The Space Jam soundtrack.
Godzilla soundtrack.
Well, the first Rage Against the Machine album.
All right, so we're at 3.
Whatever that Spice Girls album was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, no, I forgot about the Dismemberment Plan. So we're at 5.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a couple other good ones, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure Biz Markie came out with an album in the 90s. We'll just count that one, maybe.
Green Day's Dookie was pretty good. That was a 90s album.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
Have you not heard that album either?
No, I've listened to Dookie.
That was before they were writing operas and making 3 albums in 1 year and just being really a shitty band.
Not just an opera, but also a musical.
Or, yeah, whatever it is.
No, I think they also wrote an opera. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Pinkerton came out in the 90s.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a good album.
The only people that don't like Pinkerton are the ones that made it.
Yeah, which is very bizarre. It's like, we don't like the good music we made. But yeah, so this album is a sort of... I hate using the term post-hardcore. I think like any post-genre is just kind of stupid. Because I don't understand what the indication is by post. Like it happened after the genre happened or something.
What about pre? Do you like pre-punk and pre-folk?
Is that a genre too?
I don't think pre-folk is, but pre-punk is.
What about pre-funk? Is there pre-funk?
Yeah, technically that's like R&B and doo-wop. But yeah, it's considered pre-funk.
Could you like invent the name of a genre that hasn't been made yet and be like pre that?
Yes, we are pre...
Psychopia.
Ooh. It's like, what's Psychopia? Oh, it's the genre that's going to be invented in the year 3132.
And it'd be inspired by us.
You're welcome.
Psychopia fans of the future. But I guess I'll comment that I really like this album. In the era of the 90s when we were overloaded with a dirge of nu metal and boy bands, this is a daring album that tried to do something a little bit different. Very awkward in music, kind of punky, hardcore-ish, or post-punk or post-hardcore, whatever the hell, combined with lyrics that Travis Morrison, he doesn't really so much sing as he just kind of talks over the album, but his talking works. It's a nice combination of hard-hitting music and a guy just ranting about stuff that happened in his life, such as the song Ice of Boston where he pours champagne all over himself and then his mom calls. That's a funny one.
When I was listening to this album, I also listened to the Dismemberment Plan's album, their last effort called Change, or Changes. I think it was Change. Yeah, Change. Right. Yep. And I definitely got a kind of it vaguely reminded me of the band Interpol. The singer's his choices, where he kind of like sing talks over it.
Sure.
And I thought that was interesting. Like, oh, that's an interesting choice for the kind of music that's being played at the moment.
It was very aggressive sounding, though apparently less aggressive than some of their other efforts.
Um, but it's interesting listening to the two, because Change is very mellow. It's a little funky, but the Dismemberment Plan is terrified. It sounds like they're young and they're angry, and they've got a point to prove.
They are
But they're
very
gonna do
angry.
it very awkwardly.
Yeah, there's a rawness to it, almost an innocence, I would say, which is I don't know if I really ever like to use that word describing music, but there's sort of an innocence to it where it just sounds like a bunch of friends just doing whatever the hell they want, not caring if they ever get famous. And
In one of their stepdad's garage.
yeah, exactly. It definitely has a we're gonna do whatever the hell we want kind of vibe, which existed in the '90s, but it was very, very subdued and hidden.
Unless you're in a hardcore band. See where this is going?
Because they're post-hardcore.
Yes.
Oh, I get
So
it.
that means that there's still ties to their hearts, like hardcore, and how like we don't care, but they can move beyond it by playing more chords.
Oh. If I can comment on a total aside, is it just me or are the 90s probably the worst decade of music?
I disagree. I think the 80s, well, songs from the 80s with saxophones in them were the worst.
I don't know. I thought there was a lot of fun, fun stuff in the 80s. Early 80s, it was sort of the dying down of the 70s, like the 70s being squashed by the big record companies. And the 90s was just sort of like the big record companies totally overblown and pushing their schlock. Back then when you really didn't have the internet and Napster was just an infant, you couldn't just find everything online. So it was the good stuff got way buried. Whereas opposed like in the 70s, I felt like record companies would just give a deal to every band no matter what stupid shit they were putting out. They're like, you have a 50-minute song that has yodeling in it and a pan flute? Sure, here's $20,000. Go record something.
Good point. Actually, the early 2000s, the first decade, that music from then kind of sucked for the most part.
Maybe like the early 2000s, yeah. Except for
Like-
Stankonia.
Synthesizers made a huge comeback, and they still haven't left.
They're way more prominent now. It's like everyone forgot how to play instruments, except
Yeah.
for synthesizers.
But they can figure out how to plug things in and turn dials. They're like monkeys.
You know what instrument really made a comeback in like the early to mid 2000s that really pissed me off was the tambourine. It felt like in every indie album there was some dill hole with a tambourine.
Like, I can't think of any. Do you have
Like
any?
every Shin song ever.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the Shins.
Neither am I. They're way overhyped and their lyrics are stupidly pretentious versus the music they play.
Kind of like, One Direction.
Yes, exactly like One Direction.
Only I guess the Shins are less of a boy band, more of an actual band, but I mean, tomato, tomato.
Their fans are just as unpleasant.
Their fans are just the same people. That's right, people. If you like the Shins, you like One Direction.
There's a fun thing about the Dismemberment Plan is Terrified since we're talking about that album. Shorter, more aggressive songs, except for the last track, Respect Is Due, which is a slow, ballady kind of hit, and it's 12 minutes long all of a sudden. Like, I was listening to this album. I have listened to this album many times. I was listening to it this morning on my drive to my work, and I'm listening to the song. I'm like, oh, it's been going on for a while. It must have been like 4 minutes already. And then I looked, and it had been 10. It's like, oh, because I had forgotten that this track was on there. It's a good track. It's just, I was like, holy shit, it just goes on.
I haven't gotten to it yet. Don't ruin it for me.
Spoilers will blow you away. They do claim that they're going to be releasing a new album at some point soon.
Ooh, that's cool.
One thing I really liked was, even though it was sort of punky, hardcore, or post, or whatever stupid thing, or as Wikipedia says, post-punk revival, which apparently is a genre.
I thought revival was like more like gospel-y.
Well, it's post-punk revival. So after it's it's either the revival of punk, post-punk, or it's the revival of post-punk,
Or it's post-punk revival.
or post-revival punk.
Ooh,
Ooh,
that's a good one.
is there post-gospel?
There is. There's actually a band called Spiritualized, and the main songwriter, he combines gospel with like alternative rock and like ballads, and it works. But it's definitely post gospel.
Do you think Magma is post-gospel?
Yeah, actually. And some of David Bowie's tracks, like Young America,
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
that one Train song, I won't get you.
That's a true statement. But anyway, what I was gonna say though is the drum work on this album is I think it's very well done considering that this is very chaotic music. You usually get kind of a lot of smacking that snare drum for all it's worth, but he does a lot of fun little rhythms that I didn't initially expect, and I was very pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think the guitarists are the ones that are doing the most. Oh no, they're not keeping it together at all. They're like on cocaine. It seems like they're trying, like they're listening to Trout Mask Replica and trying to play along at the same time. But then they just kind of, whatever. We'll just sing over it.
That some of the songs do have that kind of vibe. Like Academy Award, the fourth track has this almost like a vibe of.
I was just gonna bring that up. It's like, oh my god,
like, they're just like
Beefheart Jr.
And they went, just sing over. Who cares?
The best batch yet? Nope, not anymore.
Nope. Now the song's called Academy Award. Would you recommend the Dismemberment Plan is Terrified to our listeners?
If you guys are into punk, hardcore, post-punk revival punk, or post-revival, or if you guys like weird psychedelic music, definitely pick up the Dismemberment Plan is Terrified if you haven't already. It's been around for about 15 years. What are you waiting for?
I would be even more general. I think this is just a good album to pick up for anyone that likes rock music. Definitely if you're more on the heavier side, you'll like it more, but it's not screamy or shouty or that angry. The music's a little abrasive. It's not something you'd be embarrassed to play in front of your parents.
Yeah, it's like if you grew up listening to Blink-182 and you really like Blink-182, but you want something that sounds like Blink-182 is like awesome brother that likes to smoke cigarettes and skateboard, definitely pick up the album The Dismemberment Plan is Terrified.
Definitely.
And if you have more sophisticated tastes, pick up their other album, Change, that I listened to, which I also enjoyed. Which is definitely more refined of an album.
Yeah. So, Jimi Hendrix is a fictitious musician that was created by a record label to convince young black teenagers to get into rock music. Is that right?
That is about as accurate as you can get.
And this fictitious individual, Jimi Hendrix, has released a new album. I guess I don't know who's actually on this album, and it's called People, Hell, and Angels. This is the only way I can explain an individual that died in 1970 has released an album of new material.
No, they found it. It was hidden under his bed. And they just kind of got around to looking.
In the meantime, they've slapped his image on t-shirts, posters, lunch boxes, iPods, iPads, and toilet seat covers, Muppets, to convince people to keep buying guitars and not listen to synthesizer music.
Yeah, instead of listening to wah pedals. Wah, wah, wah.
So...
What is this, his 7th album?
Released after he's been dead?
In general.
It's technically the 4th Jimi Hendrix Experience album, technically, I think. Even though he's been dead forever. Like, they released 3 albums, then they broke up.
Yeah.
So this would have theoretically been unless this was, I don't know what. Yeah, this would have been I think technically the fourth Jimi Hendrix Experience album. It would have been the follow-up to Electric Ladyland.
Although this isn't like filled with like rarities and like B-side songs.
No,
This is supposed to be an actual studio song.
Yeah, this is actually supposed to have been a studio release. Maybe not in this exact track listing or anything to that extent. You may notice that some of these songs have been released before on the posthumous, however you pronounce that word, posthumous Jimi Hendrix releases, especially including like Easy Rider would be one, the long jam at the end of this album. But a lot of those tracks that you've heard before were released by an individual who would edit out the actual musicians on the recording and then overdub them with people that never even met Jimi Hendrix. So there's a lot of controversy regarding them. So this is a much more original, they are much more original versions of the songs. Most of them were just needed some final touch-ups, a lot of just mastering and mixing, and they were pretty much good to go. Jimi Hendrix is notorious for being kind of a perfectionist in that way. So this is pretty much as close as you're ever going to get to new Jimi Hendrix material. But yeah, so what did you think of People, Hell, and Angels?
Well, you really can't go wrong with Jimi Hendrix. I did enjoy the album, although I was kind of hesitant. You know, like you're kind of hesitant when you're listening to that new Tupac album of its authenticity. But if you just ignore the fact that he's been dead for about 43 years, it's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he played guitar well. He knew his major and minor keys. He knew how to use a wah pedal and sing at the same time.
He definitely did know how to use a wah pedal.
Yeah. Actually, one of the best songs on this album was a song that I don't think he wrote. I think he was just playing along with them. Like it was originally an R&B song. He just kind of improved it, and that was Mojo Man. Did you listen to that?
I did.
Yeah.
Not my favorite song on there, but it was definitely a good song. I would say though, my favorite track is "Let Me Move You." That was just a ruckusy good time.
That was the taste, as the young kids like to describe things.
That was the taste. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on here. When I put the album in, I was kind of expecting it to be just a bunch of crap that wasn't really done. They went, people will buy this, and I was surprised.
Somebody put in like turned on the reel-to-reel that they recorded like some demos on and just held up a recorder to it, called it a day. It's like, oh yeah, that's good enough, I guess.
Yeah, you kind of figure that, especially when you're releasing a Jimi Hendrix album in 2013.
Yeah. I was kind of expecting like random like tracks where like the band's talking and like, oh, this is the third take of this song. This is going to be great. Or alternate takes, which I mean are cool, but like for studio albums, they're not really appropriate. Maybe for like extended versions or jazz albums. That seems to work out the best. But whoever produced this album, I don't know how I feel about you. I want to get into your brain and figure out what you were possibly thinking releasing this album.
Eddie Kramer is the one who did the production for the release at this point. I don't know if he was there when they were originally recording it. I think he was though, which actually adds a lot of favor to this album as opposed to some of those earlier post-death releases where it was someone who had no relationship to him, just kind of had access to the material somehow. And I mean, this is my understanding of it. Had access to the material and just kind of went, fuck it. I'm going to overdub everything. I'll even overdub Jimi Hendrix.
You are now Kimmy Flenrix.
Kimmy Flenrix.
Although, you know about the Jimi Hendrix biopic they're trying to make, right?
They're making a movie?
Yeah, well, it's been in like the process of being made for 3 years now, but they don't have the rights to playing any of his music for his biopic. I forget who was supposed to play him, but he kind of didn't look like Jimi Hendrix at all. But it was Andre 3000, who I guess kind of looks like Jimi Hendrix. We put an afro on him. but I think they couldn't spell his name, like use his traditional name, and I believe they covered that in a little bit in 30 Rock. You know, with I was supposed to be a Janis Joplin biopic, but they
Yeah.
could use the name, so it was Janie Jomp, right?
So, Kimmy Hendrix will go play songs like Purple Phase, Foxy Gravy. He's gonna play at a festival called Woodblock.
That's too close.
Uh, good stock, because he was making soup, and someone
yes.
tasted the soup and they went, that's good stock.
Now play me a couple songs.
All
Play
right.
me the Canadian national anthem.
No.
Yes.
No.
Good. And he can't play guitar legally.
He plays bongos.
Bongos for the accordion.
He plays Norwegian fortress magic.
He just yodels for 2 hours, guys. That's how this movie's gonna end up. Andre 3000's gonna be yodeling at you.
So it's really a biopic of Focus
Yeah.
and their song Hocus Pocus.
And how he inspires the guys that wrote that song in Negata de Vida.
This could have easily come out in like 68 or 69 or whenever it would have come out. It would have been a perfectly acceptable release. It would have flowed right easily with all his other stuff. And I think it was also a nice logical follow-up to what was it? Electric Ladyland was the album before it.
Yeah. And if they had released it back then, such songs as Hear My Train a Comin' would be in our canon.
Definitely. Or I think Hey Gypsy Boy would have also been a big hit.
Oh, yeah. Every 12-year-old at high school talent shows, or I guess like 14-year-old, would be playing it and be like, yeah, check me out.
I knew Hey Gypsy Boy.
I know how to play this song a little bit. But they would sound terrible because they don't practice enough.
It reminds me of I was at the Geneva Swedish days this summer, and there was like a band, like a high school band, and they were covering Wish You Were Here, and it was probably the most confusing thing I've ever heard in my life. It was like everyone was in a different time signature or something. The drummer was just like going crazy.
Well, we sound like crap, so you might as well just go crazy. Animal.
Did you listen to the version with the 20-minute jam at the end of it?
Of Hey Gypsy Boy?
No, the Jimi Hendrix album.
Oh, with the extra tracks?
Yeah, the Easy Rider MLK jam, also
I
dubbed Captain Coconut.
I did not listen to the extended version. I can only afford the regular version.
I was skeptical with with them tacking on a 20-minute bonus track, but it's really good. And
Should it have been the first track?
I mean, it could have just been like an EP on its own. And it would have been totally acceptable. Like, put that on a vinyl, put it on as a record store day exclusive. You could have pulled that off, no problem. It's really good.
If we produced this album, it would have been a little bit better, don't you think?
If we produced it,
Yeah.
how would have we produced it differently to make it better?
It would have included a free EP of that song. And maybe a t-shirt. Oh, wait, I totally bought the one with the t-shirt.
Did you buy the one with the t-shirt?
I did.
See, you got a young black man suckered into more Jimi Hendrix memorabilia.
Hey, this is my first Jimi Hendrix anything.
Him and Bob Marley, I feel like most people that have like a Bob Marley or Jimi Hendrix anything know maybe 3 songs by the musician.
Oh my god, don't even get me started on Bob Marley.
Like people that have like one of those Bob Marley tapestries or whatever they're called.
But it's like, hey, what's your favorite Bob Marley song? Oh,
No Woman, No Cry.
Jammin', man. It's a good one. Oh, how many albums did Bob Marley make in his lifetime? Just the one. Just the greatest hits album. That was it, right?
My favorite Bob Marley album is Greatest Hits.
Yeah. So if you guys don't listen to Bob Marley, like, seriously, then what are you doing?
And if you have like a Bob Marley tapestry, or you
Yeah, you either throw it out or you learn some Marley. That's it. This is an ultimatum. You have 24 hours to change.
Actually, I'm looking it over. I'm not 100% sure. Is this supposed to be actually like a Jimi Hendrix Experience album or a Band of Gypsies album? Because I'm looking, it's basically the Band of Gypsies lineup. It's Hendrix, Billy Cox, Buddy Miles on People, Hell, and Angels versus their the Experience lineup, which was Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell.
You're going to be really mad at me, but I didn't know there was a difference.
You didn't know That's okay. I barely know there's a difference. So
he was in 2 bands?
Theoretically, he's in 2 bands, or was in 2 bands. Yeah, he was in. There was Jimi Hendrix Experience, which was Are You Experienced, Axis Bold as Love, and then Electric Ladyland.
Yeah, the good ones.
No, but then he released Band of Gypsies, which is that live album, and that's actually technically that's not even Jimi Hendrix Experience. That's technically Band of Gypsies. I barely know anything about Jimi Hendrix, but this is the little I do know, is that at Woodstock he introduces the band as Band of Gypsies. And so that was because he was like, oh, this is a new band. And it was different.
Oh my gosh. What has he done?
Made a second band that no one caught on to.
Yeah, until now.
But I'm looking, and it looks like Band of Gypsies, it's a live album, and it's recorded over a couple nights. And some of the tracks they're playing from those nights are songs that are on People, Hell, and Angels. So they played stuff like Easy Rider, Earth Blues, Bleeding Heart. So there's stuff from Band of Gypsies that ended up legitimately just being on this album as a studio recording as opposed to a live performance.
So it was live first, and then they kind of made it to studio.
Well, there are live versions of it that exist somewhere. I mean, these are studio recordings that we're listening to.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. So.
I disagree with it. I think Jimi Hendrix shouldn't have died while choking on his own vomit, but whatever.
That is...
Because of him, we got to like scrounge around for Jimi Hendrix scraps. So thanks.
I don't think there's really anything else like to release. I mean, there's probably some reels of live performances floating around, and that's probably all they can release. But it's pretty much bottom of the barrel at this point. Unless they're gonna release one of those albums that's like Foxy Lady, False Start, and for 6 tracks.
Then like some random live recording that he was playing at, but it's like the worst quality you could possibly imagine.
Exactly.
You can hear the audience, and that's it.
And the bass drum, and it's overpowering.
Yeah, woo! That's the end of it.
And then they overdub a Jimi Hendrix interview over that performance.
Yeah, I really dig music, and it really, really sets my soul free, And he's from New York, right? Then why did he spend all of his time in England?
Because he thought...
Is it like a step down?
He's actually originally from Washington, Seattle.
Oh, wow.
He just felt the rain matched his already. Rain something. There's a rain joke in there somewhere.
He had to wear boots all the time because of all the rain.
Yeah, that's it.
You know how I wish it was a little bit more like Jimi Hendrix?
Who?
Prince.
Really? Prince needs to be like someone else?
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, actually... I wish that they would go on tour together. That would be cool. And then they play side by side. They do that weird kind of thing where they do like a little solo and then they like hand it off to the other one. Mm-hmm. That would be so cool.
You mentioned that you wish Jimi Hendrix hadn't died, and I think that's a good statement to make. But at the same time...
Oh, really?
The thing I think about, though, is like, imagine if he didn't die, though. So, like, he would have his drug addictions. He'd go in and out of rehab. And then, like, by the mid-'80s, he'd be, like, really sobered up. And he released his first album when he was totally sober. And it would just blow really badly.
It'd be all, like, electronica.
Or just, like, pop music. And he wouldn't release any good albums after that. It'd be like, this is my sober music.
But then he would show up for a guest solo on Led Zeppelin Celebration Day.
Or like a Weezer song, or he ended up on like a Flaming Lips record or something.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. He had a very short musical career. I mean, from 1967 to 1970, he had like a tiny little window of blowing everything up, and then he blew up. He just kind of showed up and went, fuck everything, and then died.
Yep. At the tender age of 25.
Not 27.
Oh, at the tender age of 27.
I mean, for a musical career, considering how big and popular he is, he wasn't really performing and around that long.
That's just selfish. Shame on you, Jimmy.
We really wanted your albums where you were sober and gravely disappointing.
I really wanted to see your comeback tour. The third comeback tour.
The third comeback tour. He plays Fire at like half speed.
Bow, bow.
Do, do, da.
Bow,
Do, do, da. And
bow.
there's 50 cents on top of that. It's like,
Rick Wakeman could be like doing a couple solos. With his
Rick
cape.
Wakeman.
For those listeners out there that don't know who Rick Wakeman is, just look it up on YouTube. Just watch a live video. He has like 10 pianos and he wears a cape.
If you weren't gonna say it, I was gonna say it. Is he more?
He's like the cooler version of Yanni.
Ooh, I don't know.
Yes, he's cooler than Yanni.
That's a tough decision to make.
Rick
God.
Wakeman wrote Heart of the Sunrise. He's cooler than Yanni.
Yeah, but Yanni has all that Yanni-ness.
That's true. He does have that sweet mustache.
I mean, to be fair, being cooler than either Rick Wakeman or Yanni is not particularly difficult.
Yes, but it's incredibly difficult at the same time.
You could have like a full collection of Pokemon cards and you could still potentially be cooler than both Rick Wakeman and Yanni.
Or not nearly as cool as Rick Wakeman or Yanni. Think about it. It's the Yanni Wakeman paradox.
Oh God.
That's quantum mechanics right there. Listeners.
So would you recommend People, Hell, and Angels to the listeners?
I do recommend it for a once over. It's not one of those timeless albums, but it's good for a little farewell to Jimi Hendrix, who recently passed away 43 years ago.
Well, and since I'm of the belief that Jimi Hendrix actually never was real and he's just a marketing gimmick to get those niche markets that they haven't tapped into, I would wholeheartedly recommend People, Hell, and Angels. If you are a individual who grew up with Jimi Hendrix when he was actually alive, then you'll really get a kick out of it.
If he ever was alive.
If he was alive, which, the debate's still out there. Like, is Elvis really dead? I ask, was Jimi Hendrix really alive? I don't know. It was all staged. All those photos were staged. They just gave a random person a guitar and went, just pose around a couple of times and we'll make all the music for you. But I think it's a really good album. I was thoroughly entertained. Some great tracks. Earth Blues is great. Let Me Move You is great. Which one did you say? Mojo Man?
Yes.
Mojo Man's on. I don't recall a bad track on here. I don't recall anything that was earth-shattering or revolutionary. But at the same time, you're also talking material that was recorded in 1968. So, being fair, that to some extent it's a little bit dated.
Yet eternal.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say for anyone that enjoys rock music, definite purchase, I would say.
I'd say just stream it. Stream it off of like YouTube or SoundCloud.
Mm-hmm. So before we left, I wanted to mention, well, actually, by the time we put this out, it's going to be long over, but in 2 days, April 20th, is going to be Record Store Day.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to go out and buy some records, or since you're going to be listening to this in the future, I hope you went out and bought some records.